All right, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, I should say, and welcome to Electric Futures. This is the second session in our regional business forum here at Green Economy North, a program of Rethink Green. We started this morning by releasing some videos about local businesses engaging in the circular economy. You can find those on our YouTube channel with links on our Facebook page. And we had just previously left our reintroduction of the Green Economy North program, which is our relaunch of our business-focused sustainability support program. If you weren't able to attend that, Kim Murch from NOHFC also gave a presentation on the new funding streams available from NOHFC. That's also going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel later today. Also links on Facebook, so I highly recommend you check that out if you want to catch some of that information. My name is David St. George. My pronouns is he and him, and I am the communications director here at Green Economy North. Before we start, I think it's important that we do acknowledge a few things today. Firstly, the whole team here at Rethink Green would like to acknowledge we are present on Aboriginal lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. In particular, we acknowledge all territories for which presenters will be speaking today, from all over Ontario and Canada, including Sudbury, the traditional territory of the Atitmaching Anishinaabe, North Bay, the traditional territory of the Nipissing First Nation, Anishinaabe, and Toronto, the ancestral traditional territories of the Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit. We recognize the contributions the Métis, Inuit, and all other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening our communities, our province, our country, and commit to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities here and across Canada. So how this presentation is going to go, as you can see, we have some fantastic presenters. I'll be introducing them, and then each of them will give you a brief discussion on a bit of their own background. After that is done, we'll open to some pre-made questions. Now, don't forget to give your questions in the chat, because after we go through a few of those pre-made questions, we can open up to the community's questions. We hopefully get to them. We do have a lot of pre-made questions done, and we have some great presenters here with some great information. So my colleague, Simon Blakely, the program director here at Rethink Green, Green Economy North, will be monitoring those. So first, I would like to introduce our first panelist, but to do that, I'm going to need to share my screen. So just give me a moment and I will share our slideshow. More people coming in, love it. Give you a sneak peek. There's me and Simon, us before the pandemic. My hair was much shorter. All right. First, I would like to introduce Himanshu Sudan, co-founder of Ecampion Incorporated, an experienced president with a demonstrated history in working in the management of consulting, skilled in business planning, internal audit, startups, risk management, and strategic planning, strong business development, professional with the CPA, CA focus in accounting from the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, CPA Canada. And if he's like any other chartered accountant I've met, he's a heck of a hard worker, because that is not an easy certification to get. So Himanshu, I'm going to invite you to speak, and I'll go through your slides for you as you introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. It's great to be part of Rethink here, and thank you everybody for kind of taking the time out of the day to listening to us. There's a great panel following me that you should definitely hear out as well. So Ecampion was founded in 2009, and what we do is we provide basically what we call the charge hub, which provides, and we do projects in electric vehicle fast charging, in bus charging, heavy duty fleet charging, as well as battery energy sources. And we've got projects all across North America, so all the way from Florida to Alaska. In Florida, we're building our infrastructure along the evacuation highways, and in Alaska, we're working with the sanitation department there. But one of the key things we're also building is EV charging infrastructure in Northern Ontario. And I've got a couple of installations in Mattawa and Temagami out there. So if you could go to the next slide.
Certainly. I apologize. Hold on. I'll be.
So I think what is unique about our technology is that it's basically built of what we call the energy storage system, or a charge hub. So a big problem that you would face when you are kind of installing an EV charging infrastructure or a bus charging infrastructure is there's just not enough power in the grid. There's more than enough energy in the grid, but there's just not enough power in the grid to be able to zap your cars or zap your buses in a very short period of time. And what it involves is bringing out a whole bunch of power to a particular location in order to charge your car within 10 minutes or charge your bus within 8 minutes. And that's what is needed in order for electrification to happen, is not your car stuck to the plug for hours upon hours, but immediate charge up. And that's what we provide without the need for putting in huge amounts of infrastructure. So just as you've seen a water tank, just as the water tank holds water and then is able to provide water to different taps, we hold power and we're able to provide power to different things, whether it's a bus or a car, or the facility, because the electrons is getting used in all of those nodes, so to say. And the good thing is, because we are able to take power from renewables locally, we don't have to rely too much on the grid for our power in there. The slide at the bottom kind of shows what our EV charging infrastructure looks like, where when you walk up, it's a fairly thin profile, with most of the power and most of the electronics is within the box at the back. So it's an energy storage hub, and it's got a whole bunch of ways of managing it. And if we go to the last slide, please. That installation was, by the way, in Auburn Hills in Michigan. What we're doing is also working locally with transits. Every time a bus plugs in, it's almost equivalent to putting in a few hundred homes onto the grid at the same time. So our technology is something that buffers the grid from those power shocks, and we're able to kind of load up transits and make it easier and efficient for the transits to move from diesel to electric, and making it more efficient in doing that. So we're also working with Avin on autonomous charging. We believe that transportation in the future is also going to involve autonomous travel. And so we've got projects not only in human intervention, but artificial intelligence and working in it. So thank you for the time. I hope I didn't take more than the 3 to 5 minutes allocated, but back to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. We look forward to hearing more about this and from you after. That was really exciting. I appreciate that. Next, we have Dave Murdock. He's the president of LED Laser Lighting Solutions. Now, Dave started his career as the owner-operator of Murdock Garage in Callander, Ontario. Nice little community right out of North Bay. Now working to provide LED grow lights and assistance to greenhouse operators. Engaged in ongoing research and development together with a plant biologist and physicist to implement lighting-based technologies for hydroponic growing systems. Now, the experience to date has been encouraging. Several growers have experienced between 500 to 700% increase in their crop yields. That's incredible. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, Dave. If you can unmute yourself, and you could talk about your process.
Where's the mute?
Good morning. There you go. You're off. Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. LED Laser Lighting Solutions was formed in 2018. I had a long, wonderful career as an automotive technician, which I have worked on electric vehicles and helped develop the race car, and we set a track record out in Mission, BC. But an old World Cup snowmobile racing accident where I had a fracture in my back kind of ended that career, and I needed to move on. So I formed a company called LED Laser Lighting, which we developed into doing all forms of lighting. But I fell in love with a greenhouse in Trout Creek with hydroponic growing, and I went in and turned his business around in the winter months and made it profitable for him. He increased his yield. The light that you see there was developed a UFO on a high bay platform because of the issues where when they go to grow, they actually had to swing the grow channels. So we needed to go with a high powered light to be able to get the intensity onto the plant canopy. So what we actually do is we find young growers that are just starting out, and we help them control their pH, their nutrients for their tank and nutrient development for the plant growth. And we also look at developing grow systems, which that's what I'm really am focusing and intensing on now. And we've developed our own lighting packages, which we've now are working with the least amount of wattage light with the most intensity for growing. And it's very, very interesting work. I've really enjoyed the past 3 years. And it looks like a lot of this could be turned into growing with solar once we get the efficiencies down in the lighting packages. Growing food is a lot like people. Plants all need different types of nourishment, lighting, and temperatures. So our grow systems that we are working on now are gone into very condensed growing areas. The cheapest way of putting up a greenhouse is putting it in a 45-foot container. So what we do is we develop these 6x6. They're 6 feet high, 6 feet wide, and they're like a rack where we pull the food out. You got to remember, we are producing light, the sunlight, with LEDs. So our color rendering index is as close as we can get it to sunlight right now. We're about 90% sunlight. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this. And I look forward to working with people. I've always done that through my professional career. So if anybody out there has any ideas for us, we will look at them and move forward.
Thank you so much, Dave. That's super cool. The fact that you could simulate, sunlight as close as possible with LEDs, something that I was using on my science fair board when I was 5, and now you can simulate as close to sunlight as possible. It's amazing what we can do, and with such little energy input, that's fantastic. All right, I will now bring things over to Steve Deford. Steve, I've known Steve for a while, and he's been involved with Green Economy North for some time. He's been the owner of Solar Associates since October 2010. Through his work, he's gained substantial experience in the consultation, design, procurement, implementation of solar-based technologies. This is the kind of guy that's always thinking of a different way to apply solar to a project or home. His work covers a range of sectors and solutions from residential through commercial and off-grid. I'll tell you, this is the guy who taught me a lot about solar. So I'm excited to pass things over to you, Steve, and tell us a bit more.
All right, thank you very much, David. I'd like to thank everybody that's joining us today on this Zoom call. Take the time out of your day to listen to us talk about the clean future is always a great opportunity. So I'd like obviously start by, I started in the solar industry, grassroots, cutting my teeth, working on the roofs in Southern Ontario during the older days during the government microfit programs. I got into business on my own, kind of through just talking to distributors and finding out that I was better at this job than most of the businesses out there, because again, I was the guy on the roof doing all the work, and I, learned it the right way, basically. I took my talents back home here to Sudbury in about 2015, and we have been thriving ever since. Next slide, Dave. We specialize in residential, commercial, and off-grid solar systems. Honestly, since COVID-19 hit, we have been exploding on the off-grid solar systems here locally, more or less the battery backup systems, but we still do get lots of inquiries through the residential and commercial industries as well. The residential solar has slowed down quite a bit over the last year or two since Doug Ford kind of abolished all the sustainability programs for Ontario. We do get some customers, more or less the home business owners, that are taking advantage of the residential solar systems, primarily because the benefit of also, reducing your hydro bill by a couple $100 a month, but also getting off of that time of use billing. So any customers that install solar systems on the residential property gets taken off of the time of use, which is that on-peak, mid-peak, and off-peak tiered structure, basically. One thing that's great about us that separates us from our competition is we are a turnkey solution. So we offer all engineering, permits, installation, warranty, everything out the door in our pricing. So we're a one-stop shop. We don't subcontract anything out. We do everything in-house. Commercial solar right now is pretty good. We're getting a lot of businesses that are inquiring into solar plus storage. Solar plus storage has kind of advanced over the last little bit with new technology like all-in-one hybrid inverters and lithium battery backup systems. We have one customer that has a large welding shop that on Monday, basically when he comes in and they turn on their machines, they get a spike in their electrical demand. And they're what you call demand billing. So when they turn their machines on Monday, their delivery charge for the whole month is based off of that initial spike. With our technology that we have today, we are using the hybrid inverters and the battery backup systems to discharge large amounts of energy to the system at this time, therefore lowering the need on the grid electricity. And with this, we are able to lower global adjustment and delivery charge for these large consumers by thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, basically. One of the big cherry on tops right now, I guess, for the commercial solar over and above, because we have no subsidies, is that Revenue Canada introduced the Accelerated Tax Benefit for Business program. Any businesses owners out there familiar with capital cost allowance, what this allows you to do is spend the capital or the investment into a solar system, and the benefit back to you is you get to depreciate that asset on 100% rule in year one. So the government is kind of making it the incentive out there for you to invest in this green energy, knowing that you can recoup your capital on tax savings in the very, very close future within that 1 year, right? Going into the off-grid systems, we're so busy right now handling inquiries from a lot of customers that are just looking to get off-grid, have that battery backup support. A lot more people are looking to build on the outskirts of towns now. And the sheer cost of bringing hydro in for these customers is sometimes just ludicrous in what it would cost, right? Lots of inquiries from, believe it or not, a lot of people moving from Southern Ontario that are moving to Killarney, Elliott Lake, French River, that are building their dream homes, and they don't want to rely on the grid anymore. They want to purchase these off-grid solar systems, and they want to be self-sufficient, and we're here to help them. We consider ourselves the #1 solar company here in Northern Ontario. And we have a testament to our customer, not just to sell you the system up front, but to take care of you and service you over, the next 10, 15 years while you have that system. Thank you guys very much for your time today. Thanks, Dave. If you have any questions or concerns, you can contact us directly at the information provided here. We offer free consultations. Sometimes it's easy, just as easy just to talk about something. If you have a question, we're here to help facilitate whatever needs you guys have. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate that. And I'll tell you that on the ground, hands-on interaction with the solar systems, the electrification systems are very valuable. So thank you for joining us today. That's very, very cool. Next, I will introduce Devin Arthur. And if you haven't met Devin Arthur, you haven't talked about in Sudbury before, because when you talk about electrical vehicles in Sudbury, one name always comes first to mind. He's the founder, chapter president, and co-chair of government relations for the Electric Vehicle Society in Greater Sudbury. He's been employed by Stantec for over 9 years as a global desktop administrator and desktop support analyst for a wide range of technical and administrative functions. As well, there's not much dang thing he doesn't know about e-vehicles. So I'm really excited to have him come chat. So Devin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, David. So yeah, like you said, I am the chapter president for EV Society Greater Sudbury, and Electric Vehicle Society. Next slide, Dave. Electric Vehicle Society is a not-for-profit organization with a goal to accelerate electric transportation in Canada. EV Society Greater Sudbury is just one regional chapter out of 10 plus we have across the country through our affiliate chapters and affiliate groups that all serve one common goal. Through these chapters, we engage in federal, provincial, municipal consultations to shape EV policy, and this could be through as granular as municipal policies to help municipal fleet vehicles, provincial to encourage uptick through provincial incentives, and most recently we've been in consultations with the federal government through the clean fuel standards, as well as the upcoming Environment Climate Change Canada fuel standard initiatives. Our primary focus is through education and awareness through community events. Unfortunately, this past year, it's been pretty difficult to hold community events, so we've been trying our best to have some sort of virtual presence. So we've been doing a lot of monthly webinars with industry experts. So if you haven't checked those out, be sure to check those out on our YouTube channel or on our website, and we have them every month. What we normally try to do is engage with the community, and what that means is get people to see the EVs, to see the models, as well as to try them. One of the biggest impacts for people to actually realize the experience of driving EV is to actually drive them. And unfortunately, there is an issue of supply. So to have owners come together and provide test drives and to show off vehicles is one of the biggest impacts that we've seen to get people interested in them. We also do a lot of consulting for businesses looking for fleet vehicles, installing charging infrastructure, et cetera. And recently we've been, at least for EV Society Sudbury, we've been focusing a lot on sustainable mining practices. Sudbury is a mining town, and with the uptick of EVs, it's going to directly impact our local economy because nickel is one of the major components in electric vehicle batteries. So not only that, but also Sudbury can show a lot of forward thinking by the uptick of using battery electric mining equipment, and we've seen that with Vale, Glencore, et cetera. Next slide, David. And if you guys want to check us out, we have a big presence on social media, and you can send questions or comments to myself at the email provided. And I would encourage you to check out our website and look at any of the initiatives across the country that are in any of your regions.
Thank you so very much, Devin. We appreciate that. Devin is certainly true. I have not seen him in public at an event where he doesn't get someone to go look at his electric vehicle and talk about how great it is. We have a great advocate in you for this cause. So we're going to be switching over to the panel discussion right now. There are a couple of questions we've prepared, and I will go through them with the panelists. Once again, if you guys have questions in the audience that you can think about, feel free to send them. We'll try to get them at the end. We got a couple of questions to get through and a lot of great experts before us. So I will direct the questions to the panelists, and we will go from there. So let's start with why is green energy important to you? I'm going to start with Devin. Let's over to Devin. Why is green energy important to you?
Sure. So green energy, I think for me is important because growing up in Sudbury when I was a kid, the image of the super stack was prevalent, right? And I was growing up in the 80s, so the air wasn't good. I had asthma as a kid, and from then till now, there's been a dramatic shift, especially in Sudbury in terms of air quality. And then you can go provincially to the elimination of coal-fired power plants. So to me, growing up through that process just kind of, clued me in that, we can be doing things a lot more cleaner, a lot more greener. And it's really important because, we only have one planet. We have to do everything we can to make sure it lasts. And we have to make sure we do that sustainably.
Very true. Love that. I mean, anyone who's been in Sudbury for quite some time knows what it used to be like. All right, so I'll have to ask you over to Steve Deford. Why is green energy important to you? Steve, you are muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. Well, I guess other than the fact that I've invested my total life and future into green energy, considering it's business I'm into, exactly kind of what Devin touched on. We only have one planet, and it's really up to us to make the difference. You see what's out there, and you see what's going on, and you see how it could be better. Other than that, I see a great opportunity for the generation underneath us to come up and invest their futures into green energy. Maybe not the purchasing of solar systems, but the green sector. You look at the ratio of green energy jobs nowadays to the fossil fuel jobs, and we are catching up. Depending on where you're geographically located in the world, we outreach and surpass the fossil fuel industry. So there's a great opportunity for the younger generations to get great paying jobs in this sector. So it's a great opportunity for the planet, and it's a great opportunity for people as a whole that want to advance themselves and get a good career, right?
Absolutely. I love that. The job perspective of this is phenomenal. This is where the future of energy is going. And, as guys looking to get jobs, girls looking to get jobs right out of college, like this is a good field to get into.
Not
Ken
jobs.
Walk, sorry, what's that?
Careers, not jobs.
Careers. Love that. Love that. You're right. Look at you giving me the messaging. I dig it. Dave Murdock, I'd like to pass things over to you. Why is green energy important to you? Once again, you have to unmute your mic.
Well, after 40 years of an automotive technician and a truck and coach, and through all the progress on catalytic converters and afterburners and all of the issues that were through the automotive sector, and I realized years and years ago that we're headed in the wrong direction with the automotive industry and truck. So I really support the green initiative of electric vehicles. I think it's the future. I was involved with a program with Lynx Technologies where we developed a track vehicle, and it was headed into electric technology going forward into the mining sector. It was an amphibious track vehicle that was built in modules that you could actually put it in the middle of nowhere. And I was working with an engineer at a North Bay on trains, electric trains. So we're going to take some of that technology and put it into a track vehicle. But for the work that I'm doing right at this moment in the late lighting in that industry, I feel I can make a difference in the greenhouse, lower the carbon footprint by more efficient lighting. And we will eventually get the greenhouses converted over to solar and be able to use the solar system to be able to introduce the lighting packages for the lighting. So that's why it's very important to me.
Love that. Thank you so much. And that's so true. And I loved how you're talking about different pieces of technology over time, electric trains, electric operations in the mine, and how you're taking, bits and pieces from that, because this technology has been around for a while and it's about time that we all maximize it. Certainly. Himanshu, I'm going to pass the floor over to you. Why is green energy important to you? Oh, you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, just unmuted myself. I agree with everybody else. What they have said is, it is a sustainable way, and it is kind of like it is a sustainable way forward, and agree with Steve that it also is good career. But I think there's an important aspect that we seem to overlook. It actually is. It actually is cheaper, and as volumes as the volumes kind of grow, it has been proven time and time again that in fact use of electric buses over a diesel bus is almost 8 to 10 times cheaper to operate than it is on the other way. So as consumers, it's really important for us to migrate to green energy, not only because it is good for the environment, but it's actually good for our wallet.
I mean, it's always easier to convince somebody of something if it saves them money, right? It's always far simpler. All right, let's slide on to the next question. That was just the opener. And I'm going to start off with Steve this time, and go through the cycle. What are the first steps a business should take when implementing renewable and smart technologies? I assume with you, it's going to involve solar.
First and foremost, I'd contact Green Economy North. I'd get on their membership program. I'd have them write a sustainability action plan for me. And within that sustainability action plan, you're going to definitely see something that involves solar for your future. The guys over at Green Economy North, if you're not a member yet, if you totally understand the value that they bring to an organization or a corporation, you would sign up in a heartbeat. You wouldn't even look at the dollar amount. You would just know that you're getting an amazing deal. On top of that, I'd have to say solar. Right now, even though in Ontario, we don't have the subsidy rebate programs from the province of Ontario, you just look at the 100% tax benefit for year one savings. It's like that right there is enough cherry on top. A lot of businesses look at hydro cost as a fixed cost that is just part of their capital cost that they have. It doesn't have to be. It's the hardest thing is the capital investment up front. People are more comfortable spending the $200,000, $500,000 a month than they are dishing out, the 35,000, 80,000, 100,000 it is to own their own hydro system. But if you can look beyond the capital investment, you could definitely see solar as one of your primary objectives as a business if you plan on being around for a while.
And how much variance is there in that fixed cost? Because that's just to go deeper into that. So yeah, you're right. A lot of businesses see your hydro cost as a fixed absolute cost. What's the variance on solar to reduce that?
Depending on the system size, you can look at it as like most systems that we do are warranted for 25 years, operational lifespan around 35 to 40 years. Over the course of that lifetime, if you do a cost per kilowatt conversion ratio from whatever your nuclear power to solar, you're going to be fixed at around anywhere from 4.5 to 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour through solar. And you look at hydro today, and especially in Ontario, we have one of the worst hydro infrastructures in the Western world next to California. So you're always going to be paying that standard rate of inflation from anywhere from 4 to 8% a year. So whatever you're paying now, you're going to be paying more in the future. So we look at it as not only protecting yourself now, but really protecting yourself for the future.
It's interesting. Another interesting point that the cost will always just go up. And that's really such a huge point for this. Dave Murdock, I'm going to pass it over to you. What are the first steps a business should implement when getting into renewable or smart technology?
Do I have to mute my mic?
Nope, you're unmuted. You're already ahead of the game.
Oh, I'm ready to go. Well, I would say that the question is, I'm going to speak on behalf of my business and the approach where I'm going with this company, is that I try and go in and educate people that have never grown with lights, have never grown with any type of lighting. The cost is scary for them, right? At first, they look at what the costs are, but I show them what the renewable income would come from the increase in the growth. The hydro cost today, as one of your earlier speakers said, that it is getting crazy. We set up timers that we're trying to get on off-peak time to be able to have lighting on, and then on the high peak we have to shut down because we're talking humongous grow operations that probably got 160 150 watt lights that are in them. So it's very important that they come up with a really good plan on how they're going to manage that. Thank you.
Very, very true. Very true. And to speak to that, but the cost going up for GSU as well, or any sort of hydro company, and just a fresh reminder, everybody to tap into your hydro companies or utility companies' cost saving programs. There are stuff there. It's interesting because it's also cheaper for them for you to use less electricity. So there's lots of different savings out there. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody, but I know for sure, having talked to them about those programs are there. So there are some cost saving programs, but the best idea is to switch to renewable. Of course. Absolutely. Hey, Himanshu, what about you? What about you, my friend? What are the first steps someone should talk about when getting new technologies in electrification?
One of the first things that anybody getting into this sector is going to do their research. There's a lot of material out there that is talking about innovative, not only technology side, but also innovative business solutions, innovative financing solutions and things like that. So I would obviously suggest is do your research, look at what the alternatives are there, and also most importantly, look at the financing options that exist in order for you to be able to switch from your current technology onto a more renewable or a greener technology. Is look into the tax savings, as I think Steve was mentioning, or just do some research around other kind of like options, funding options that exist, because I think there's a lot of there are a lot of credits available, a lot of funding opportunities available. I'm sure Northern Ontario Heritage Fund that was the previous presenter probably had some options there allowing you to migrate. So look at it not only just from a technology perspective, but also innovative financing ways of doing it.
There are always new ways in regards to financing for clean, green technologies. There are funding grants out there that people traditionally don't think about, especially, we did see the reduction of those over the past few years, as Steve has said, but they do still exist, and even private companies do offer them. So I think it's really important. I like that point a lot.
I just wanted to make is one of the things that we do when we kind of bring in ours technologies, we never bring it just as a pure sale. We always have an option of helping finance the thing. So we work with capital institutions to kind of help with that transfer happen. So I think that's something that businesses will get more and more involved with doing as well.
I mean, that seems to be a theme that I'm hearing throughout this discussion, is that the upfront cost can be intimidating for a lot of individuals, but there is help out there for financing to save money in the long term.
Yes, yes. And I think in our case, we're kind of coming up with innovative ways of charge as a service, or where it's almost like a subscription model where you're kind of not going too much into like building an infrastructure, but kind of using it more on as needed basis.
I like that. Devin, I'm going to pass things over to you, and maybe you can speak a bit to the upfront cost piece as well, because I know you and I have had discussions as well about, the upfront cost in regards to electric vehicles, but also the cost savings you get out of it as well. So what are the first steps you think someone should take when electrifying their business? And, how do they, what kind of return do they see on those upfront costs?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, so in terms of like cost is a very, it's prohibitive for a lot of people because, as Steve and Humanchu said, like the upfront capital cost on electrifying your fleet or installing infrastructure is, a bit higher than what business owners are typically used to. However, you have to, people get scared off right away. But in terms of total cost of ownership, it's a lot cheaper to own and maintain than, traditional vehicles or, traditional infrastructure. So what, for this question, we would just say, do your research, ask industry experts, go through Rethink Green, Green Economy North, come to us. We'll find the people that you need to get you the right information and kind of get something that's specific to what your use case is.
I love that fact that we have some experts here on this call that folks can ask about this sort of stuff and are eager to talk about it. I love that. All right, let's go to the next question. This might be a little obvious, but I think we might be surprised. I'm going to pass it over to Dave Murdock to start. What green energy approaches have you taken in your own business operations?
Anything to say?
Well, you're working with new LED
Yeah.
lighting ideas, lower wattage.
Yeah, the LED lighting is the biggest approach that we've taken to lower our energy cost and offering that technology to a diverse wide of people out there that are trying to produce food in Northern Ontario to make a living. So that approach is it's the new technology in lighting. It's the way to go.
Dave, special thanks to your assistant beside you. We all wave and say hello to her. Thank you so much for helping out with the call today.
Well, I just wanted to say another approach we have is that if we have a visit we wish to make to a startup greenhouse, when we do deliveries, we don't send it with anybody else, we go ourselves. So we kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone every time the car goes out on the road.
I like that. Limit the amount of times you're going to be burning carbon to drive. I like that for sure.
That's right.
Hey, Manchu, how about yourself? What green energy approaches have you done in your own business?
So we have, my partner and I own a couple of businesses. And so we have a fleet of about 8 to 10 vehicles. Half of our fleet is electric. In some cases where we do need the pickup trucks and things like that, we need to use the non-electric basis. But we do have for our staff ability to kind of take the EVs that we have within our fleet. We're also installed LED lighting in our factory, and but I'm going to reach out to Ken and see how we can improve that further. And also we're installing solar and battery systems in our factories in order to reduce the overall consumption. In spite of the non-existence of the FIT, we've studied the business case, and it makes sense for us to install solar even without the FIT, in order to reduce our Class B costs as well. So I think those are the things that we've taken from our end.
I like that. Even without the FIT program, studies show, your own study has shown that you have
Yeah.
cost savings from all of these.
Yes.
Excellent. If I can ask, setting all of this up into your operations, what was there any difficulty setting all that up, like that transition to switch to so much electrification in your own operations? Was there any challenges that surprised you, or things that were more pleasant than you thought?
So, with regards to electric cars, it was a pleasant surprise because, we basically have what are those fobs from SO fobs where people kind of basically go in and be able to fill up the cars. Now that's replaced by them having to plug in, and just the way our systems have worked. So we've definitely seen a reduction in our travel cost because of the electric cars or the use of electric cars. So from that perspective, it wasn't that much of an obstacle. I think what is needed was for understanding the model, because there are so many hidden costs within our electric bill that we need to understand a little bit better before we can understand what are truly the variable costs in it and what are the costs that are kind of sunk that no matter what we do with our electricity, we're still going to be get done. But regardless of that, just understanding the model and understanding the cost, there definitely is, the payback is definitely not as good as it would be under the FIT program, but in the 10-year duration, we definitely see it paying off by itself.
Love that. And I see Steve's nodding his head about hidden costs in your electricity bill. I've never seen a man cut an electricity bill down so hard. Steve, before I go on to Devin, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, he's totally right. Like your hydro company is really good at manipulating your hydro bill to hide things from you that you didn't even know they were there. Like he touched on the variable rates and the fixed rates. Like it's don't even call it a delivery charge anymore. Let's just call it a being connected charge. If you're connected, they're charging you, even if you don't use any power. And like you said, it's kind of hard to distinguish what these charges are because they don't break down your global adjustment for you on your hydro bill. They don't break down a delivery charge. Your delivery charge has about 6 variables within it, but they don't tell you what they are, right? Some are fixed, some are variable. So it's like he said, do your research, see what costs you can get rid of, see what costs are going to be fixed at the end of it, and see if the investment fits what you're looking for at the time, right?
Love that. Sounds like you're really taking control of your own energy bill by doing this.
If you're in the position where you plan on being in business for 10 or 15 years and it's being in the same location, it would make absolute 100. This isn't a sales pitch. This is one of the best decisions you can make for your business to keep your bottom line up. Put out the capital up front, put on solar, and you will save money for decades and decades to come. It's not even a sales pitch. It's true. There's enough research out there now. There's enough people that have these systems installed. It's not a trend. There's a lot of information. It is 100% true. You put solar on your building, you will save money for decades and decades and decades. But like everybody said, it's the capital upfront investment that scares people away sometimes, right? On your question here, what your green energy approaches would be, kind of what we did. We had you guys at Green Economy North write a sustainability action plan. You guys came in, did a greenhouse gas emissions inventory for us as a whole. We kind of looked at that report and we did our best to look at the points that you guys brought forward for us and make the changes. I think the biggest thing for us over the last probably year and a bit since COVID came out is we've completely changed our sales pitch. So before we used to take a sales pitch and a quote to a customer's house and we would go over it and lots of driving. I mean, like lots of kilometers a year driving around to individual customers' houses and doing sales pitches. We're doing everything over Zoom, everything over email, and everything over the phone now. So we have cut down our mileage like you wouldn't even believe. And it's nice. I get to spend more time at home with the family now that we're working from home. So it's been overall a great thing, but I highly recommend anybody who's not a member of Green Economy North, look into their services. They can help you out in ways that you didn't even know.
I love that. And props to Steve, who's one of the folks who's enjoying all the extra family time. We always hear those stories of people having a rough time with their kids at home, and props to you for making it work, man.
Thank you.
And we didn't
all
try
right,
maybe
how about
that.
yourself? What green energy approaches have you taken in your own business?
Well, I mean, so to flip this background, we're not technically a business per se, so we advise other businesses on how to electrify. So I'll just start off by saying, like, the biggest impact is just ownership costs for electrifying your fleet, especially. You know, costs over time, you'll save a lot of money in fuel and maintenance. You know, if you're just relying on the electricity grid, you know, you have that set or, you know, set electricity fees that you would pay. And if you're going solar or renewables, you can cut that down even more. So we kind of you know, factored in, you know, the global adjustment and the demand fees, et cetera, to a blended rate of 13 cents a kilowatt hour off peak, which kind of translates into driving 100 kilometers in an electric vehicle costs $2 versus $10 in a gas powered vehicle. Now, those aren't exact numbers, they're just kind of estimates. But, you know, just showing people how much they can actually save by switching to electric. And of course, the more you drive, the more you save. And the more vehicles you have, the more you save. And then even going back to what Himanshu said about electric buses, you know, that's we've been trying to kind of say this municipally for a long time, where, you know, it's going to get to a point where owning a diesel or gas vehicle is actually going to be a detriment to you as a business, because it's going to be a stranded asset, where, you know, that it's going to lose exponential value because, you know, there's going to be a time, and a lot of people don't think it's going to be soon, but it's going to come a lot faster than people realize, where they're going to not be selling fuel powered vehicles any longer. And I think that's a key point that people don't realize, is the industry is moving in that direction so rapidly that I think consumers are going to be blindsided. But it's a good overall move for pretty much everybody, because they're going to save a lot of money in the long run.
You brought up a really good point about that asset management point. When we're talking about sort of our municipal assets or our business assets, the management of and the value of that asset, which will depreciate. I know Greater City of Sudbury has just set out a community energy and emissions plan that sets by 2050 to have electric fleet vehicles on all of their fleet. And have you seen a lot of businesses, Devin, go this route? When you're talking with individuals, you see people are planning to have electrification in their fleets, or is it something that people still haven't caught on to yet, the value?
I think it's in the larger business world, in terms of fleet owners that own, you know, tens of thousands of vehicles, they've 100% caught on. They're switching all their vehicles because they know that they will save, you know, a ton of money. Now you get down to the smaller fleets, like municipal fleets, or, you know, even smaller businesses. I don't think, at least in smaller centers, I haven't seen people kind of catch on. It's sporadic here and there. But again, it's hard for people to wrap their head around the higher capital expense and then try and show them that it's going to be an overall lower cost of ownership. So I think it's important to show people that, and you know, to customize their use case and showing them, okay, here's how much it's going to cost up front, but here's how much you're going to save over time.
Well, I know Himanshu has already said, you know, talking about he's already electrified his fleet. He's got 8 on the go. Now, this might go back. What advice, Himanshu, would you give to offer businesses starting on this path? We've kind of covered this before a little bit earlier, but what advice or resources would you point someone to if you said, hey, you know, where can I find information, or what can I learn about? Like, where would you say their first point of research should be? You are muted. You're mute, Himanshu. You are muted. There you go. Perfect.
I said you're absolutely right. We've kind of covered this off as to kind of doing some research and things like that. I kind of looked upon it a little bit differently. Your question here, I kind of look upon it, if somebody else was kind of becoming an entrepreneur into the green energy, what would be the advice that I would offer them if you are kind of falling onto this path? And my answer to that would be, listen to your customers before you kind of start a business that kind of goes out with it. See what exactly are the pain points. I don't know if you remember this, Devin, but 4 years ago, a couple of our team members actually visited you and the whole EV society to kind of understand from you, what is it as EV drivers would you like to see from the charging systems? And some of the feedback that we got from you was incorporated into the design options that we kind of came up with. Yeah, that this is what it should look like. And one of the pain points you discussed was the fact that it had so many people kind of walking around with different cards, a card for this network and a card for that network. And that's something that we implemented it. So Dave, the advice would be, if you are to go down this path, is obviously kind of do the research, see what kind of technology options there are out there. But if you are starting out on this path of becoming a green entrepreneur, starting your own green business, I would say look at what are the pain points for your potential customers, get their feedback, and incorporate those things into the model. So we heard today from the entire panel, upfront capital costs. There are solutions to kind of how you manage that upfront capital cost, and I think that the technology is there or is arriving there. Some of the innovations around the financing of these upfront costs is something that I think we should be or doing some more research around.
I dig that. Now, Devin, I'll take things over to you since you were the expert that even Himanshu. See, I tell you, Devin, everyone knows you, man. Even Himanshu came up and said, "Yo, what's up with these electric vehicles? What can we do?" So, what advice do you give people when getting into electrification of vehicles or starting their own fleet like this? Like, what advice did you give Himanshu? I want to know.
Yeah, and Himanshu, I do remember that. Yeah, so like, I mean, it really depends on your use case. Like I said, you know, for us, we'll like if someone came to us and asked us for advice, it would be, you know, we would ask them what their use case is or what they want to get out of it. You know, we have a lot of connections with industries, and there's a few that will basically come in and do an assessment of your fleet through, you know, vehicle tracking, mileage tracking, et cetera, to kind of tailor what EV model or if electrification can even work with the existing models out there. And then they'll give you a report basically showing you here's how much you'll save over time. They don't even bother with the upfront capital cost because they'll just, you know, that, like everyone said, it kind of turns people off. So they'll show, okay, here's what you'll be saving over the next 5 years. So I think in general, it's more, you know, make sure you do your research, find out what your use case is, and then, you know, connect with people who can point you in the right direction.
Devin, I have a question that goes a bit back to the asset management point we were discussing, and that's the length of time for an electric vehicle. And I've been part of many conversations that say, you know, buy the newest one as soon as it comes out, and I've been starting conversations like run your electric vehicle to the ground, then buy a new one. Is there a right answer here, and what do you prefer as far as this asset management point?
I guess it really depends. You know, because you know, I guess you want to make sure it lasts as long as possible, right? Like one of the most wasteful things you can do is kind of, you know, get rid of a vehicle before it's truly dead, I would say. But in terms of, you know, life cycle management for vehicles, we've seen a lot of advancement in terms of battery recycling and the materials used to create EVs, and it's improving every day. So, you know, I would say don't necessarily get rid of it as soon as you can. A lot of these vehicles now are made in, like they have such little moving parts and serviceable parts compared to traditional fuel burning vehicles that, you know, because EVs in their infancy, we haven't seen them get to that point where, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these kind of breaking down and rusting out, et cetera. But we do have examples of EVs that have gone, you know, 100,000 plus miles with little to no wear, and they're still driving as new just because of the components they use. So I think it's really like, you know, you buy an EV, you're going to be set for a really long time.
Like that. And the comment you talked about, you know, 300 of these every corner you go, you know, rusting over time. Anyone who lives in rural Ontario who's been to their favorite fishing spot has certainly passed an old truck in the bush that now the woods have reclaimed. Maybe when we made it that we see an old EV vehicle there. We should pull it out, obviously, but you know, that'll be the future. Steve, I actually instead of talking about business advice to get into this business, I do want to kind of dive a bit more to that asset management piece with you. Because you had done a really great piece about the value of a solar asset in regards to a building. So since we're talking about that upfront cost, and we know that funding streams for solar projects have been in flux sometimes, but we know that it pays off over time regardless. What's the
It does.
asset value of a solar panel on when I'm
That's-
buying a home or even for a business to resell?
That's where it's a little bit tricky. So we've actually reached out and we partnered with J. Smith Realty here in Sudbury, Ontario. We reached out to a good friend of mine, Luke and John, and we kind of gave them the rundown because we've noticed we had a few customers over time reach out to us, say, hey, like, look, we're looking to sell our house. What's the best way to recoup the value? A traditional home inspection or what would you call it? A evaluation of a home. Some realtors don't know what they're looking at. Most of them want to avoid these things, homes with solar like the plague, because they just don't know what it is. We've actually found the contrary. When you have a knowledgeable realtor that understands what that asset is and the value it holds, the equitable value that it adds to the property is substantial. And when you look at the net metering right now, where we offset your cost for electricity, like if we're paying 21 cents a kilowatt right now, and let's say you installed it today, what if we're paying, 38 cents a kilowatt in 15 years from now? Is that solar system going to be worth more money or is it going to be less? Because what we've noticed is this isn't like a car where you buy a car, you redo the brakes, you redo the alternator, and if for some reason, no matter how much money you pour into this car, it's going to be worth less money. We've noticed that not only do solar systems retain their value, they actually go up in value over time, depending on where you sit, like if it's a microfit contract or if it's a net metering, right? But we definitely noticed that the equitable value to the property 100% goes up, for sure. And to your question that you had, what advice would I give to any businesses starting on this path? DYOR, do your own research, see what you qualify. There's always going to be grants and subsidies for forward-looking, renewable-minded companies. And I'd almost reach back to Ken Walker on one of the comments that he made on the greenhouses that are running 150 watt lights. We've done some work for some medical cannabis companies that are running 1,000-watt high-pressure sodiums, where their hydro bills were thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month. And what's great about the solar is as soon as you go net metering, we take you off of that time of use billing structure and we put you on a 2-tier. So regardless of how much electricity draw you need or needing to shut down your operation because they charge you more for electricity after 7 o'clock, there's ways around all of this stuff if you spend the time to do some research and look into things a little bit further. So I wouldn't even mind touching base with you, Ken, probably in the future to kind of get a grasp of what you guys do, because I think I can help you out with some of your customers who are stuck on this time of use on peak billing structure. And it's quite easy to get it off it actually as well.
I love this. We're doing business at the thing. This is like we're all in the same room. That's why I love getting together on these things. So Dave Murdock, I see your name says Ken Walker on the bottom, but it is Ken Murdock.
Sorry, Dave.
I'll pass it over to you about the usage. And I do actually have an audience question for you, Dave, about food security. And how do you feel your product is involved with food security? So if you want to answer Steve's question first, obviously, about how much power you're using. And otherwise, if you want to talk about food security in regards to the LED systems.
Okay, Steve's question was about the usage in greenhouses and off time, peak time.
Mm-hmm.
The advice that we give them is that we try and stay away from the peak time. And most of the greenhouses are shut down at night, so we actually have lighting on at night which is the off peak time. But I would love to meet with you and discuss this further. Because I think renewable that way in a greenhouse and growing in Northern Ontario is going to be big demand coming forward. And what advice do we give small business or businesses that we actually encourage them to do a lot of research, but you got to remember these people work from 7 in the morning until 9 at night. They're working phenomenal hours to produce food. It's labor intensive. It's like a farmer that has 300 head of cattle. They got to be milked. These plants have got to be looked after. So it's 7 days a week work. So we really watch the people that we get involved with. There's people out there that will do very good at this, but there's people that want to dabble at it. But you got to find the really good, committed people to take on a responsibility like this. So that advice that we give them is that look at your hydro rates, look at what we're going to increase the food producage uh, by putting in the lighting and the offset cost. The technology that we offer them, there is an big increase. Like we've seen 700 to 800% growth with the right type of lighting. So that makes a business in the winter months valuable, and they can produce like what they do in the summertime. So that's some of the advice that we give them.
Very cool. I love that. Okay, this is the last of our 5 big questions. I do have a couple other smaller ones I want to pass to you guys, but I do want to give everyone the floor before we go to general questions. One last opportunity to tell us more about the technologies you have access to, you can offer members in the community and our Green Economy North members. And I'll pass things over to Himanshu to start in regards to that.
Thank you. So, we think that the world right now is going through a migration of three big migrations are happening, or transitions are happening. There's the electrified transportation. So there's a transition of transportation from fossil fuel to electrified. There's a transition that is happening with how energy is being produced, and that's kind of what Steve is talking about with the solar and other renewable forms that are coming on stream. And then the third big transition that is happening is the 5G telecom network that is kind of being built, and the telecommunication transition that is happening in the world. So one of the things that we're working out with one of the largest grocery chain businesses in Canada and also down south of the border is installing our energy hubs that have a combination of solar, battery, 5G telecom network, and then overall interaction of how all of the kilowatts and kilobytes kind of interact with each other, and kind of how efficiently that whole process could be managed. So that's kind of like the technologies that we are working with. We're also working with large infrastructure funds that provide capital for these kind of rollouts. So if there is like a business or a chain of businesses that's interested in incorporating something like this, solar, batteries, in other forms of telecommunication into it, we're able to bring capital to the table and incorporating it all into a more holistic solution. I think what is a problem in the past has been is kind of looking things just from the perspective of a traditional way of doing it. So traditional chargers, for example, were built like the way gas dispensing systems at gas stations were, which was just plug in and the kind of power goes one way. But the future is that power is going to flow between cars back to the grid, and grid to the battery, to the car, as well as to the buses. And how that whole thing kind of interplays with each other. So don't look upon these emerging technologies in the way paradigm that we looked at traditionally source of energy, but there's a new paradigm of how we manage this, as I mentioned, kilowatts and kilobytes, and how the interplay happens, and a lot of green capital that is available to be deployed where there's business case to be made.
I love that. Look at the future of what we are going to see, how we do it differently. I think that's really true. Devin, I'm going to pass things over to you. What advice or what else can you offer individuals, who want to get involved in green vehicles, and maybe talk about the EV Society as well?
Yeah, so I think what we can offer is, because we're a volunteer-based, not-for-profit, we don't charge any money for any of our consultations that we do. And we also have a lot of connections in the EV industry, including through like Himanshu and Ecampion, but all the major charging networks in Canada, Flow, ChargePoint, et cetera. So, if you are a business who's looking to offer EV charging, or, you are a business looking to switch your fleet to EV, we can connect you to the right people to make sure that you get the action plan that you need tailored to your specific use case.
Very cool. Steve, what about you?
Well, that's the thing with solar. We're always expanding. You know, we deal with a lot of people that are kind of always sitting on the cusp of new technology and never want to be the first one to jump on board. They're always like waiting for that perfect Goldilocks zone. What we could tell you, if you're waiting on the cusp of new technology, you're kind of always going to be sitting on the sidelines waiting for the new technology, right? Other than that, again, we have amazing technology, kind of what some of the other presenters touched on, this time of use and on-peak billing. There's systems out there nowadays where we can hook up smart inverters and battery systems to charge the batteries during off-peak hours and discharge during on-peak hours, so that you never have to buy electricity at those higher rates. You could just install a solar system and completely get off of the time of use billing structure. We partnered with a company called Fortress Battery out of California. We're now looking into centralized power stations for mobilized companies. We just put out a huge quote for a demolition company that travels internationally. Each time they go out, they're on a different job site, and their fuel costs to run their offices and lunchrooms are just astronomical. So we're looking into these centralized power stations that are powered by solar that can be portable and moved from location to location. Other than that, we're always trying to expand and look for new technologies here in the solar world.
I love the concept of portable solar on that level. We've seen portable solar come to a lot of places before, from construction sites, camping, all sorts of, but to ramp that up to a more industrial.
This is large scale.
Like, yeah, this is much,
very large.
Yeah, exactly. It's much bigger than the generator I bring to camp, right? It's
much bigger, yeah.
Yeah. Dave Murdock, how about yourself? What else, just to talk about what technologies you can offer individuals who are interested in your operations?
Well, right now we're working with a light that's 3 watts, and we're growing food with 3 watts, where we originally had 240 watts. And it's developed through a new type of a grow system that we're actually working and testing with. So it's technology that we're homegrown in Northern Ontario. We're going to bring it forward to a local grower, and he's going to put it into production, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So I'm always looking at new technologies and cost-effective ways of growing food through light sources. We also work with laser lighting. With laser development, the operating cost will come down. It's high cost at first, but it transports an impact of power from a source where you can transport and put it through a magnifying and magnify the intensity. So those are the kind of issues that we're working with. It's kind of cool.
Thank you so much. It's 3:15, and we have had some questions from the audience. I think we only have time for one to go around the table. And I think this one is actually pretty important. And it was in regards to the training of these new technologies. It started when talking about training in regards to we saw Dave talk about he's working on EV vehicles. I guess EV vehicles is a bit too much, electric vehicles, but otherwise, what curves do you see for training? Do you find a lot of opposition to people learning how to use these technologies? How do you go about learning this new stuff? I want to start with Devin, since this came about from a garage perspective about just mechanics working on EVs. Like, do you find that sort of barrier to information?
I do, and actually, that's one of the areas that we're focusing on next. Is having universities and colleges, integrate electric vehicle maintenance into their existing training programs. We've seen a lot come out recently, and actually I think Sudbury was the first in Canada to offer heavy duty mechanic course in like battery electric vehicles for mining equipment, and that was through some partnerships through some industry companies. There's been a couple training programs out in BC, and I believe some out in Nova Scotia. So it is, the momentum's building, but I believe it's only a matter of time. I think we need to start getting these integrated sooner than later, so that, as the adoption, takes hold, there's the appropriate amount of, people who have been trained to service these vehicles, and not just rely on the actual auto manufacturers to offer that in where you purchase your vehicle.
It's interesting. I like that a lot. Steve, what about yourself? We just talked about how, sometimes realtors may not know the kind of asset they have dealing with. What kind of training is available for people to learn about how to use their solar system or to get into solar?
So that like the end user usually comes from the company that sold them. So you're really going to be heavily reliant on picking a good company that really teaches you about the technology and the ease of use that you have of the solution that you pick, basically. Us ourselves at Solar Associate, we'd like to try to give you the most easiest understandable system out there that requires little to no human interaction once programmed by us. But other than that, like anybody interested in looking into getting into the solar industry, there's a program offered through the North American Trade School. We've worked with them over the last couple of years. They're out of Brampton. They have a solar technician program there. Other than that, there used to be a running kind of slogan around Sudbury, like if you're a millwright, you can go work anywhere in the world. If you're a solar technician, you can go get a job anywhere in the world and you will make really good money. So if you're looking you have kids that don't know what they want to do, it's a really great job. You get to work outside a lot. You get to meet a lot of different people. It's a great career opportunity for anybody who's kind of undecided on what they want to do in life. And there are programs out there. I wish more Cambrian College and Laurentian University would get into like a specific solar program, but it's generally something that they cover over a week or two within like their electrical engineering class. Solar specific, you're going to be looking at like the North American Trade School.
I believe Collège Boreal also has a small section for their solar program.
They do. We've worked with them quite a bit, actually. We did some mock-up job interviews with them 2 seasons ago. They do, but again, it's not a specific solar program. It's kind of a generalization, like 1 month out of their whole 6-month curriculum that they cover solar. But it is nice seeing, you know, schools taking the lead and you know, offering these services and education to the kids.
I love it. Cool. But Dave, what barriers are there to learning for your system in regards to growing food or plants using the products you have?
Well, I'm fortunate. I have a plant biologist that I work with, and I have a physicist. So when we find a new grower, a young grower that wants to start to grow, is we actually go in and we help them to teach them about the nutrients, how to feed the plants with the proper pH and the proper parts per million of nutrient. And we work them through that system to get them up and going, and we teach them about the lighting, what the light does, the intensity of the light. Different plants need different color of the light. We teach them about that. So it's quite a process. Yes, there's stuff on the internet that they can learn. They can do a lot of research, but when we offer a lighting package and a grow system, we actually teach them from ground up.
As necessary.
As necessary. Yeah.
I like that. Don't worry about hiring a physicist. Dave's already hired one for you. He'll share that expertise with you.
I guess part of the concern we have too, we talked about it this morning, is that we would like to see independent growing systems up north in the communities that have very poor access to fresh produce. But it would be finding people who are competent at growing, because as we have found out, and as our starting up growers find out, there's always a lesson or two to be had every day as you go along. And unless you have a bit of training and someone you can count on to give you a heads up about stuff, it's very difficult to be successful some days.
Oh, thank you. That's very true. That's a source of information, and people you can trust the information from is very important. Dave, do thank your assistant for helping us out today. We love having her on the call. How about you, Himanshu? In regards to training for systems, do you find that people have a barrier to that information, and how do they get around it?
So there are 2 barriers on the training side. One is from just people working on our systems. So, you know, we've got a typical bus charger is 600 kilowatts. And as more and more cars are kind of coming in, each one of them is going to have like 300 to 350 kilowatt of charging. And if you put multiple chargers, that's like megawatts of power that you're dealing with. So you definitely need a lot of specialized training, not only on the power electronics side, but also on the battery side, to be able to kind of provide that kind of instant power that is needed in these stations. So those skill sets are not as easily available in the job market for us to kind of bring on to as we grow our company. So there's training that's needed on that end. Then the fact that you're dealing with such a lot of energy or such a lot of power on your tips, the initial subscribers or the initial people who are taking on these systems, they kind of are keen and they are willing to learn and kind of go the extra effort to kind of learn what it is. But as we kind of go and have it become more and more mainstream, where the typical grocery store operator is going to be having this installed in his store and stuff like that, I think at that point in time, that training becomes more and more important for them to have it as ease of use of using the systems and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure if that kind of training exists right now. It's something that we are developing as part of what we offer is like a hands-on training kind of program over a 5 to 6 weeks to allow them to get comfortable with managing it. But that's kind of where we are at.
Sounds like it's almost an identified gap that needs to be filled and a growth opportunity.
Sorry, there was a page happening in the factory. Could you repeat?
That's okay. I hope it's not an emergency. But I said it sounds like you identified a gap. That's a growth opportunity for individuals looking for training or looking to develop training opportunities.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
We see that as battery systems and as power electronics become more and more, I don't think there's a single large-scale battery manufacturer currently in Canada, lithium-ion battery manufacturer, that is out there, and that is a skill set that we're going to need. I think I heard somewhere about independence around food, batteries, and these kind of are the future, and that's kind of where we need to kind of develop more and more of our training sites. Otherwise, we'd go down the same route that we did with solar, where it's all basically built overseas and kind of imported here rather than kind of having that manufacturing capability in Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic place to end off on, unless you want to comment on that for the solar production, if you know there's any local solar construction panels, or do you have to get it overseas?
Well, primarily our number one panel that we're using is a Canadian solar panel. It's manufactured in Guelph, Ontario. They rank 3rd in world usage as of 2021. They come with an industry leading 25 to 30-year warranty on the panel itself. They're built, tried, tested, and true for Canadian weather. Other than that, like Himanshu said, there is no large battery manufacturer here in Canada. You can find the run-of-the-mill smaller producer who's giving you, 10 kilowatt hour, 15 kilowatt hour battery cabinets, but all of the cells, all of the batteries are coming from China. So it's like he said, there's a ample opportunity for expansion for this sector here in Canada for sure.
Well, we hope that governments, municipal, federal, provincial, and private industry make these grants available and these opportunities available to grow this. Because it sounds like we're walking away with a realization of a big industry gap that a couple of bright individuals could probably certainly fill if they want to be industrious about it. And I hope someone is. I'm not that guy. I'm a comms guy, but I hope someone else is.
I think we have a good enough team right here where if we get on board with the city of Sudbury, that new municipal action fund for that $10 million grant and loan program, I think we could put a pretty good proposal together with the people sitting at the tables here today.
I like that. The brightest minds, absolutely. I have a feeling some emails are going to be passed around with each other when this is all done.
I'll send a meeting request.
Yeah, Simon's already working on it. That's Simon for you. He came up with an idea. He's already planning the meeting. There was some other general questions here, but I think we are at our end of our time, and I want to thank absolutely everyone who attended here today. I want to thank our speakers, Devin Arthur, Steve Deford, Dave Murdock, Himanshu Sudan, and of course, Dave Murdock's assistant, who's helped us thoroughly through this. We want to thank her as well. She wants to give a wave. We appreciate you joining us. There she is. I was hoping we could tease her out. We also certainly want to thank our sponsors. Valet is our founding sponsor of the Green Economy North program, and a bronze sponsor for the weekend is Reliable Cleaning Supplies. Of course, all of our members who are in the call, both GEN and Smart Green Communities. If you liked what you saw today, you can go and see it again. I think it's a lot of fun on our YouTube channel at Rethink Green's YouTube. Links will be on Facebook. Tomorrow, we will be doing a discussion of the new normal and talking about what the world's going to be like sustainably as we exit COVID. And I think that's pretty exciting. Of course, there are some videos on our YouTube channel now that talk about the circular economy from the Farm to Table Facebook group or Mere Organics. And tomorrow, we're going to see videos from Eco Growth talking about advanced composting techniques, as well as talking about green teams. So there's lots to do this weekend. once again, special thanks to from myself to everyone here today. And we hope you all have a wonderful day, and good luck with your electrification efforts. Great minds at the table. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.